Have you ever read The Color Purple? Have you ever seen the movie The Color Purple? It's one of my favorites. The author of this novel was Alice Walker, and she stated once, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. As an inspiring historian and lover of history, I have studied and read the evolution of voting in the United States. I have not only understood the evolution of voting, but also where voting is currently at our nation. As a community of college students, I know that you're interested about the past and how the past can affect our future. This mechanism of the past, in a sense, helps us or can help us remember those political or relevant causes which got this nation where it is today. But it can also give us admiration for those who risked everything, for in this sense, get the vote. Today, I would like to inform you about the history of voting in the United States, and thus the evolution of voting in the United States. I will begin this story in the beginning. The first point we'll be talking about is voting in the American Revolution, or after the American Revolution. Then we will move on to after the Civil War and the two amendments which were passed after the Civil War. And third, we will talk about the 19th Amendment and how this amendment was crucial and historical even to today. Now, at first glance, the word voting is used rather easily in today's language. One can use a word, though, over and over and forget its meaning or the history of how that word became what it is today. So, in the beginning, the US was anything but a symbol of fairness or freedom, but rather it was a symbol of the wealthy being able to vote. In the beginning, only the wealthy were able to vote. The first American voters consisted of white men who were 21 years of age or older and who owned property. Now, these white men were the elite individuals who were allowed to vote, and those who were denied to vote were those as women, the poor, and men who didn't have or own any property. Now, according to the Constitutional Rights Foundation, 10 to 20% of the population in the United States at the time was able to vote. 10 to 20%, that's a very small amount of people who were able to vote. Now, fraud was very rampant at that time in the United States. What many landowners would do is they would give land grants to individuals who didn't own land before. Thus, these individuals could now be allowed to vote. So individually, they would pay these people to vote for the candidate of the landowner's choice. Like I said, fraud was rampant at that time. As we move on in time, we now continue to the Civil War, and it comes and goes. And then, after the Civil War ends, the 14th Amendment is passed. Now, according to the United States Senate.gov website, the 14th Amendment is as follows. All persons born or naturalized in the US, including formerly enslaved people, were now granted citizenship in the United States and equal protection under the law. The 14th Amendment was a drop on what would become later a deluge of voters. As we move later on into the story, we go into the 15th Amendment. The 15th Amendment is crucial because it now granted these citizens, at least those who were male, being able to vote. The 15th Amendment, in a sense, gave these individual citizens who were male the right to vote, disregarding color, race, or previous servitude. Now, color, race, and previous servitude. These three words are crucial and important because although these individuals could now vote disregarding their color, their race, and or servitude, there was one word that was missing, and that was the word sex. Now, according to the magazine Perspectives, a magazine about a woman about lawyers, 26 million women became first-time voters during the 1920 presidential election. Now, these women, after the passing of the 19th Amendment, gained a new freedom to vote, and thus, in a sense, pick the candidate of their choice, as my slide says. One note that has to be added is that African American women were still denied the right to vote, although legally they could vote. Voting is and continues to be a topic even on today's political lips. Voting continues, and in a sense, still to evolve from the American Revolution till after the Civil War, till after the 19th Amendment. The voting sense continues to evolve and continues to make this union a more perfect one. Within this speech, we have leaped into the sea of history and seen how the American vote has evolved, and as well as how a select few has become an array of individuals who are now allowed to vote. We have started at the beginning with the American Revolution, moved on to the Civil War and the passing of the 14th and 15th Amendment, and then the 19th Amendment in 1920, which granted women the right to vote. Voting is as old as democracy, but let me give you this brief statement. The right to vote was not given to any of us. We had to take it. We had to fight for it. I call you to action now to vote this year. Let us learn from our past. Let us learn that the history or the story of the American vote or the story of voting is the story of America. Thank you.